Good evening. Hey, everybody.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome back to Unleashing Empathetic Conversations. I know we were off last week, but here we are kicking off our domestic violence series, part one. I would like to allow my sisters to introduce themselves. So go right ahead and start introducing yourselves, ladies. And I'm going to go with Christina. And then you guys can popcorn it off.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Ward, founder of Shaken Nations with Jesus Christ, an online ministry that some of you guys know about, some of you don't. I get to preach to different folks around the world, so far Africa, Pakistan, and working on the US and many more. I am a mom of three of beautiful, amazing young adults. I, of course, am honored to be on the show with Miss Liz. Bring a big shout out to her and to my panel sisters as well. Such an honor to be here, to be able to share things, our stories, to be able to be a light to those, especially in such a dark world and so much going on. So I pray everybody enjoys the show and we get to help you.
I'll go next. Great evening, everybody. Liz, want to give it back to you. Always an honor to be here on this platform with you. Christina, thank you so much for your love always. My name is Yesenia MacArthur. I'm based out of Long Island in New York, and I'm the founder of Her Walk Is. It is a faith-based coaching business where we help women by fueling their mindsets to really perceive life challenges through the lens of faith. I am a mother of three amazing adult children. My twins turned 21 last week. God is so faithful. And I'm a real estate agent. I recently made a switch announcement coming. I am excited, and I also help people by coaching them on how to understand their credit better and go from poor credit to excellent credit. And that's it. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about tonight's show.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Melanie. I'm glad to return back to the show again. I am actually a beginning founder of Girlfriends in the Faith Zoom Hangouts on Fridays and usually prayer calls during the week. And I'm just glad to be back with my panelists after a few days, a few weeks of being sick, but glad to be back and start new conversations with everyone.
Yay. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Yes, Melanie was out for a few weeks, but I did tell you guys that she was coming and she's here. So I'm super excited. Yay. She's joined us. So thank you, Christina. Thank you, Yesenia. And thank you, Melanie. I really honor and love my panelists. They are amazing. And I also would like to once again introduce myself, Liz Gerardo, your empathetic coach, and the owner and founder of Bridge Over Troubled Waters Elite Coaching. I do coach relationships and marriages and all kinds of relationships. But I'm a coach, not a counselor. I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of that. A counselor is, therapeutic, and a coach takes you from where you are now to where you want to be next. And that is what I'm here for. So, moving forward, today's series begins with domestic violence, and I'll be sharing my story. Feel free to ask questions and comment and engage in all the chats. Totally fine. The girl's going to be there while I share my story. They're going to be interacting with you all, taking down your questions and everything. I just want you all to know that please feel free to ask whatever you want, and we will get to your questions and comments during the series. As I share my story, I want you to know that it's going to be easier for me to read it because I did start writing it. I wrote my book. It is my book, but I'm going to read it because it's easier for me to share my story when I read it. I have already put a lot of details in there, but it's just easier. I don't really talk about it a lot, and it's easier for me to do it that way. So I hope you guys don't mind, but trust me, you'll enjoy it. It's still my story, right? All right, so let's kick it off. Well, first and foremost, this goes back many, many years. I pretty much ended up in this situation right after high school. I was 18 years old, right after high school. And it didn't start right after high school. It started a couple of months later, but I'll share my story. And, I share it every year, but I only share a very small portion. But let me get to it so that you guys can enjoy. Not that it's enjoyable, but all right. So if you really want to know, and please excuse me if I'm looking down because I am going to be reading it. I'll try to look up as much as I can. But if you really want to know, I'm feeling anger, sadness, frustration, disgust, etc. The list goes on. I'll try to describe to you in writing what went on as best as I can. But just know this, it's not going to be easy. So please, please bear with me. I was so happy. So happy. I was happy at one point. It was like a fairy tale. I was hurting from my past, but feeling like I would never be hurt again. So I was happy. I thought, hey, this guy was nice and he looked great. He resembled the Rock at the time. Yes, he did. He actually did. While The Rock was a wrestler, he resembled The Rock to the T very, very much, which is why I hated The Rock. I couldn't even look at The Rock after I left that situation, but that's over and done with. The Rock looks good now. So as a matter of fact, yeah, they were almost like identical twins, but I said that already. And that didn't matter to me. I do have to say this guy, he was also a wrestler. He was all county for Nassau County wrestler, all state, almost made it to All America, but then he suffered an injury and that prevented him from winning the All America Championship. He lost by 1 point, so that wasn't, obviously it made him really angry. Well, it happens, right? He is very well known where he lives, or was at the time. I thought, this is going to be great. Every morning when I woke up, right there in front of the mirror was a beautiful red rose. Every single morning, no lie. It was almost perfect. I lived in such a nice town, or city as they call it there. Everything was at walking distance, including the pier. The pier was on one side of me and the ocean was on the other. I literally lived right on the beach, or right by the beach. It was a walk away. I couldn't ask for anything better. And that was in late 1996. Well, in late 1996, summer of 1996, in August, I started college. And college was the one place I wanted. And I started in the one place that I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Briarcliff College. And I got into Briarcliff College in Lynbrook. And I was really, really excited. Lynbrook, for those who know Long Island, Lynbrook in Nassau County. It was a pretty small campus, but it was nice. It was great. Everybody was very close. We were like family. I was majoring in computer and office technologies at the time, right? Because I love computers and all that. I was so excited. But unfortunately, 1 week later, that's when everything started. It was a dream and it was over. It was too good to be true. But I will never understand what I did wrong. Going to school the following week was hard, but I went and I still enjoyed it. Getting up every single morning was hard, but I still got up. Coming home from school was hard, but I still came home. Getting through the day was hard, but I still made it through. It just became harder and harder and harder, but I still kept on keeping on. No one knew and no one would know, but I wasn't giving in. And quit school? Never. They would have to drop me before I decided to quit school. That was the one dream that was still well a reality, and I wasn't going to stop dreaming. Even though everything else became nothing but a horrible nightmare, it was very far from perfect. I'd get up at 7:30 to be ready at 8:30 and take the 8:55 train into Lynbrook for a 9:30 class at school. I do this every single morning, and that changed. I'd still be up at 7:30, but I wouldn't be allowed to get ready until 8:50, just 5 minutes before the train left. Many times I missed the train, but I just got on the next one and went to school anyway. And that too became a challenge within time. I tried to get me out of the house, or he tried to get me out of the house, looking as though I didn't really care about myself. He didn't want me to have my hair done or anything, but I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. I made sure I looked very decent every single time, and he hated it. He had to have things his way all the time. I cleaned up the room and the apartment, but he went and messed it all up right behind me, just to make it look like nothing had ever been touched. I cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and everything I made was done wrong, but he ate it anyway. He had to pick up his mother from work in Far Rockaway, Queens at the time, every day at 3:30 p.m., and he dragged me along even if I didn't want to go. Wherever he was, I had to be right there behind him against my own will. Get this, and one night we went out dancing. That's where I met him. So we went out dancing, and I bought the same drink I always buy, always bought. That was back then. It was a Sex on the Beach drink, and I only had one. That's it. It seemed that something must have been done to this one drink because it was so bad that I couldn't really even have not even one more. I never vomited after drinking ever, unless I really overdid it. And that was back then when I drank, right? Because I wasn't a Christian then. And regardless, I hardly ever vomited. It's just not me. I could not keep myself up, and I called it an early night. Well, the next day I was hungover so bad, I felt as though I had been run over by a dump truck. And on top of that, I was already sick with a very bad cold. That morning, he had to be in Elizabeth, New Jersey for a tryout, for the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Yeah, he got into that so deep that he thought he was one of them. That was on the TV day and night. That's all we used to watch because he was such a fan. Anyway, he dragged me in the wee morning hours to New Jersey with him and his friends. I remember that his mother asked him why he was making me go with him, and he said that I wanted to go. Not true. His mother seemed to know that very well. I didn't want to go. And then she asked me, why do you want to go if you feel the way that you are? He looked at me, and I knew I was supposed to answer. I knew what I was supposed to answer. So I said, no, I want to go. She didn't believe me, of course, but I reassured her, and I went. Even though I didn't really want to. I knew what I was in for if I had said otherwise. So we went on our merry way, and it was hell, I tell you. Nothing but yelling and degrading me the whole way there, threatening to leave me in the middle of the interstate on the way there and on the way back, fighting with me, grabbing me, hitting me, punching me, pulling my hair while trying to mess it up. It just kept on going. Things would happen, and his friend and I would look at each other because we just knew him too well. We knew when he was going to get upset. He pulled into a gas station and fought with me to get out of the car. I was scared, and I didn't want to get out. His friend tried to calm him down, but that only made things worse. He pulled me by my leg and tried to grab me by my hair to pull me out. And after finally realizing that I was not coming out, he tried to be nice and promised me that he wouldn't do anything but talk. Stupid me. I finally came out. He pinned me up against the car and questioned me about why his friend and I were laughing. I explained to him that he was so predictable, and we just knew that he was soon to get upset about something that had happened. And that just enraged him. He threw me in the car and took off like a bat out of hell. He continued to threaten me all the way there. And I guess it made his ride a lot smoother. It was horrible both going and coming, and that was that. But you know what the beginning of this horrible time really was? I had started school, and that's when everything started. I had to do favors for him, in order to be allowed out of the bedroom. I was told what to wear many times, and many times still wore what I wanted. My biggest downfall was my hair. I did my hair, and he criticized it. I believed him. I was very anal when it came to my hair. I changed it up many times. When he finally said, "That's it, keep that look," I believed him and I kept it. Many times it was nasty. I was big on my hair, and maybe that is why I don't bother with it much now. Actually, that was quite a few years ago because I love my hair now. But anyway, every day was the same routine, and every afternoon was another. Every night was UFC before and after the gym. And oh, the gym was a must. And he dragged me there too. I'd work out, of course. That benefited me, and I took advantage of it. Weekends were spontaneous, except for the UFC and the gym. That had to be part of the routine at all times. Many mornings he'd send me out to get something for him, and he would not give me the time of day to dress proper or fix my hair. I took the time to fix my hair even if I wasn't dressed proper. And he would get all fired up over that, but I didn't care. Even if I knew what I was in for when I returned. Of course, I was a whore. I was a whore. I was a slut. Um, Out to find someone else. That's why I fixed my hair, right? That's why I fixed it. Go figure. Well, I should have known all along. That was just part of the criticisms that I received. I would flip at times, and when I felt that I couldn't take it anymore, and then out came a little baby boy. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. Please forgive me. I don't know what gets into me sometimes. Do you forgive me?" In the beginning, I believed him. He would go on, and I really felt bad that he didn't mean what he said and done, and that maybe something was just bothering him that made him snap. So I did forgive him. I did. He went on to hear me say I forgave him, so he heard it loud and clear. "Yes, baby, I forgive you. It's okay. I'll try to help you." Huh. Well, it was over for a few hours, but something would spark it up again, and eventually that became a routine in itself to simply apologize after every single incident, and I would be forced to accept it, or it would start over and over right then and there. He would literally stare at me while asking if I believed him and if I forgave him, and demanded that I answer at that very moment. And if I said no, he would go into a spin of rage and scream at me again. "No, no, you don't believe me. You don't forgive me." I'll give you a reason not to believe me or forgive me. So many times I had to say, "Yes, I believe you. Yes, I forgive you." I had to go through all of that just to shut him up and get a break from everything. It was extremely exhausting. Eventually, I just zoned out 95% of the time. I just couldn't take it anymore. And he had destroyed me so bad and so deep. I had no self esteem left. I felt as though I had no other purpose. He did a great job at making me feel that way. Anyone have an Oscar? He would have won that one for sure. That guy was very private, so private that the majority of the time at home was spent in his bedroom. He kept me there too, by the way. It was my dungeon. I was all out of the room. No, I was only out of the room if I was cooking for the restroom or the shower to eat. But we even ate in the room lots of times. All conversations that we had were his business and no one else's. In that room, he liked to play stupid games that ended up with me hurt and him laughing. At times, he liked to practice his UFC moves on me. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that UFC, that crazy fighting, the street fighting. Everybody knows what UFC is nowadays, right? Yeah, they fight and fight and fight until they see gory blood. Yeah. Just thought you should know that, but I'm sure most of you do. Anyway, he practiced those stupid moves on me, and they weren't just cake, they were painful. And I remember a move that left me with a bruise on each thigh. Those bruises were identical. They were both the size of handballs. They were black, blue, green, and they were like in 3D form and so huge. Huge lumps on the outside of both of my thighs, which were caused by swinging of his lower leg, swinging it around and hitting me with the bone so hard, and hard enough that he knocked me to the ground from the strong impact. I told my family I got hurt on a ride at Splish Splash, and I'm sure they still remember that, or at least one of my sisters does. They said they never believed me. As a matter of fact, they never did anything about it either, but they never believed me. I learned a lot from him and his crazy moves. Eventually, I started to fight back, and it surprised him. He stopped showing me moves after that, but he failed to realize I watched the sport with him, and he fought with me constantly. One time he picked me up about 8 feet in the air, and he dropped me to the ground. I blacked out for a few minutes. I heard him all scared as he called me by name and shook me while he was trying to wake me up. And when I opened my eyes, he looked so scared and he was asking if I was okay. I hadn't even sat up yet when all of a sudden his facial expression changed from scared to he didn't care. And he said, "Why did you move so much? You shouldn't have moved. Look what you did. I meant to throw you on the bed and you made me miss. So you landed on the floor," while laughing. Now, granted, he had a rug on his floor, but underneath that rug was cement. It was pure concrete. His rug wasn't even thick either. His room was in the basement of the house. It wasn't a deep basement. It was more like a semi-basement. His windows were pretty big, but he kept the blinds down day and night, and his blinds were black. He kept his room very dim and dark. Strange, I know. He had his wooden portable closet, right? And that's where he kept his clothes. Soon enough, he started really getting into drinking heavily, and he started keeping his bottles of liquor in that closet. He drank gin, vodka, Bacardi 151 proof, which I don't even think they make anymore, and many others, including Cisco. I don't know who remembers that. I drank with him, yes, sometimes, but very rarely on my own will. When he drank, he became a little baby, and even then, he was incredibly manipulating. He made me take care of him, extra care of him, and just do things for him, and I had to. If I thought he would mind, he would not mind, and I just said no to him, he would flare up as if he were sober, and then there was no better way. What I noticed was that eventually he started leaving me home and going to the gym by himself for a change. Sounds good, right? He made sure that I was taken care of before he left. And when I say taken care of, I don't mean well. You know that closet I mentioned? Well, before he left, he locked me up in that closet. Yeah. Give me a second. I'm sorry. So before he left, he locked me up in that closet. As I mentioned, well, goodness gracious. He would tie it up with steel chains. He had these steel chains that he would just take and wrap around the handles. He even added something to that. He took a spray bottle and filled it with hot water, really hot water, and he sprayed me with it through the cracks of the closet doors. I didn't think it was funny, but he sure did. He got a kick out of all the stupid things that he did. I'd stay in there sometimes for hours. I'd even sleep or just relax. And believe me, it was relaxing to be in there and without him. Eventually, he'd get back and unlock the closet door laughing, "Get out of there," he'd say to me, as if he hadn't put me in there. Then he started other things. Sounds like he always had something in mind, right? Well, that's because he always did. I was always busy. Or I was a model too, by the way. And he made me put on his choice of clothing and model for him. And he would take pictures, lots of pictures. One night, he made me put on an outfit, which I happen to really like actually, until he cut the long skirt into a mini skirt. He made me put it on and drove into Far Rockaway, Queens. He went to a specific spot and told me to get out of the car and stand there and that he would be right back. I guess he parked somewhere, but he came back walking and he treated me as if I were his prostitute and he were my pimp. He would touch me in public and then tell me that he will be across the street watching to see how much attention I'd get. I felt like running most of the time, but I was afraid of the worst things happening to me. Anything worse than what he was doing. I was just afraid. I didn't even know where I was in Queens. I remained standing there and I waited for him to get back, and that was disgusting. Of course, I did that. I did get the attention that he wanted and that I didn't want. It got even scarier after a while with guys surrounding me. And finally that was over and we were on our ride back home, and or should I call it prison? I don't even know. I didn't even know what was home anymore. It was dreadful. Back home, it was crazy. Yeah, I was on a rampage. I guess I was just full of anger and disgust, and it wasn't helping me in any way to act out, but I fought back. Things seemed to calm down soon after, and I had one of the very few calm nights, and I went to sleep. The next day I got up for school, picked out my favorite skirt. As a matter of fact, that one was my favorite skirt. What got into him? I'm not sure, but I became enraged at the ridiculous remarks that he started to make and threats about cutting up my skirt to get rid of it, just like he did the other one. This pushed me to grab a scissor and destroy my own skirt. I said to him, "Oh, I'll cut it for you." So I did. He was amazed and he kept on telling me to stop. I said, "No." He said, "No, don't do it. Don't do that. What are you doing?" And I turned to him and responded, "Oh, like you care anyway. Isn't that what you wanted? Well, that's one less thing for you to do or worry about, you piece of, well. As I walked away, he grabbed me by my hair and flung me to the ground. "What did you call me?" he asked. "You're not deaf. You grabbed me for a reason, so you heard very well what I called you. Now do what you're getting ready to do," I responded. And he did. But he wasn't hitting me. It was for his favors. I headed for the door, but he pushed me and blocked it, as he always did. He stood there and said, "You know what to do." And whatever. Enough about that. I'm sorry if it seems like I can't share too many details. I told you it wouldn't be easy. I will try, like I told you, as best I can. Bear with me. He never worked. He didn't like to. But I wasn't going to wait on his mother to support me like he did, like she did him. After all, she wasn't my mother. I decided that I wanted to go get a job. Yeah, that's right. He didn't like that either. Much to my surprise, though, he went and decided to go do the same. I didn't know he'd gone to Blockbuster. Anybody remember Blockbuster? Yeah. But I had already been hired at Blockbuster. I didn't expect him to get so upset about it, but he did. And he started accusing me of taking his job and tried to ruin it for me altogether. I'm not too sure what his plans were, but he let it go. Soon after I started the job, he started to see what his plans were. I started to see what his plans were. He'd show up constantly. He was trying to get me fired. And I had pretty good times there. It was definitely relieving. And I'd forget about him while I was there. He couldn't hang around all the time, so that made it better for me. I remember dancing through the store with the coworkers while we fixed the store at closing. I didn't want to go home. If I could sleep there, I would. But it was eventually over and back to that frightening reality that I lived. I juggled that job, school, and him on a daily basis. It was extremely hard, especially when I started to miss school a lot. Yeah, things just started to get worse. And it wasn't because of my job. It was really things at home just started to get worse. He was stalking me and following me a lot more. I was getting into more physical fights with him and at times walked around trying to hide bruises. Uh, I had and still have had bad habits of cracking my knuckles. That's a bad habit, right? He hated that I did that. So he would punch me in my hands so I could stop. He would do this in front of his mother or anybody for that matter. He didn't care. I never learned to stop. And as a matter of fact, I'm proud that I still have that habit. I started to get a lot of grief in school for missing so much, and it was starting to kill me inside. I was given a choice of either dropping out or getting kicked out, but I swore that I wasn't going to let him destroy that for me. That was mine. I decided to stay and stick it through. They thought, okay, well, good for you. Hope you can make it work. And I was determined to. I went to the school. I went with the school to a Broadway show and to watch Beauty and the Beast. Oh my goodness, that was such a great show. I enjoyed every single minute of it. When I got back, of course, he was waiting for me. It was the worst. So what'd you do? Huh? What'd you do? Tell me. Start talking. That's what I faced. Well, don't get too comfortable. Let's go to the gym. Tired and all, I had to go. And I worked out. I hit the sauna and relaxed. And now it was time to go. We went to this place called 24-Hour Bagel. That was his spot after the gym. Guys would look and stare, and guess what? It was all my fault. I wasn't looking at them. They were looking at me. But of course, his mentality was it was my fault. Why would anybody else be looking at me? Well, and I missed school again and I couldn't get there and it was starting to frustrate me. I needed that, but there was really nothing that I could do, nothing. My anger began to grow and it wasn't to my benefit either. It started to grow into this uncaring personality. Nothing mattered to me anymore. I fought back and fought back saying, this is my life. Learn to live with it. I had nights where things seem okay, but never realized this was part of everything that he had created. I dressed up wearing his shirts, and we'd go to the beach or the park at the beach. And we'd take lots of pictures, and I did love pictures, but I only enjoyed taking certain pictures, like the ones on those nights. I still have, well, I don't have them anymore. I had them, but I ripped them up. And if you had seen them, you'd think that I was happy. I learned how to hide what I was going through. In one of the pictures, I was wearing a leather jacket that belonged to a male friend from the school. He was a really cool guy, and we'd laugh and have a great time together. He lent me his jacket, but this guy never knew that it belonged to him. This guy's name, I will not mention. Yeah, I don't know why I put it in here, but for the book, it's good, but I'm not going to mention it live. This is that terrible, the abuser's name is the one I'm withholding. Anyway, my friend and I would hang out at the train station for the train. A lot of times we would just hang out there waiting for the train. I had shared with him only a little bit just to give him an idea of what I was dealing with. And I'm talking about the school friend now. Just having his friendship meant a lot to me. He was such a great guy. And thank God for nice people, because he really was a nice friend, just a genuine friend, nothing crazy, nothing, he didn't even look for anything, just a genuine friend that was just caring. And Yeah, he wasn't the only one. I met a lady there in the school as well, and if we would love to run, I would love to run into her again. I can't remember what her name was, but I know her by her nickname. Yeah, and I can share that because there's so many of them, but her nickname was Gigi. She was my lifesaver. Um, and I actually named my 23-year-old daughter. I'm going to get emotional. I actually named my 23-year-old daughter after her. Well, I named her a name that allowed me to nickname her after her. My daughter's name is Jeliza, and I call her Gigi for short. And she's the reason why I call her Gigi. And I loved calling my daughter by that name. That's a good memory for me. Yeah. Love you, Gigi, if you're watching. One day, he was so far on a rampage that I knew he was headed to the school and I wasn't safe there. In fact, he had done that so many times. I had people in the school telling him that I wasn't there. I would have to hide out so much and then realize how I was on the run constantly. Well, this particular day, I had that feeling because of how bad the morning had gone, and it was terrible. I left the house a mess, and without him even noticing that I was gone, I jumped on whatever train it was, and I was gone. The Long Beach branch. I lived in Long Beach. That's Long Beach, Long Island. The Long Beach branch is the final stop. So there were trains coming in and out all the time. I got to the school, stayed there a while, and hung out with some of the ladies in the school lounge. I was hurting and really needed to talk. I shared with the girls part of what I was going through with the psycho, and even told them that I knew he was going to soon be showing up at the school, and I was so desperate. I asked Gigi if I can go with her, and she let me. She lived in Long Beach as well. I was also supposed to go to work that day at Blockbuster, but I knew that I couldn't go in. I didn't even want to call. Gigi lived right by Blockbuster. Things were very crazy for me that day, and Gigi didn't want me to call him. I wanted to because I was curious to know where he was and what he was up to as far as looking for me. I did call, and I couldn't block the number because they did not accept private calls. Well, his house didn't accept private calls. I don't think we had cell phones then either. So he didn't have a cell phone to call. I was calling the house. He was trying to be nice. Or did they have cell phones? No, he didn't. Okay, so he was trying to be nice. And he kept telling me, please come home, that he wouldn't do anything stupid to me. But I knew him enough to know that that was a lie. I was there with Gigi and her kids for a while doing okay until all of a sudden the phone rings and it was him. He called like a psychotic maniac. Gigi got so scared. I got so scared. She did a lot for me and I didn't want to put her through anymore. So I called my mother and I asked my mother to come get me. This being one of the few times that she did, and she brought with her my sister and my other sister's boyfriend. I had to go back to the house, and thank God he wasn't there. His sister let me in upstairs so I can get a few things. Well, guess who showed up? Yeah, him. He was on his bike that he took from Blockbuster. My sister's boyfriend was not letting him into his own house. He wanted to knock him out, and eventually he came in, though, and went on his knees. On those knees. Yeah, he was begging and pleading with me not to go. He kept telling me how worried and scared he was and when I was gone, and that he realized how wrong he was and that he needed help. This seemed different to me. Honestly, I actually believed him. I did. I was scared, but I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. Did he really get scared straight? Did he really see what he was doing? Was this experience really going to change him? I didn't know for sure, but I was willing to find out. I told my family that I was going to stay, and upset as they may have been, they said, "Okay, be careful." And they were gone. He was relieved, and we went straight downstairs. Things were okay for a while. In fact, they were okay for the rest of the night. I had a very decent and calm night. The next day was still a bit calm. I felt okay. I was pretty relaxed for a while. It was pretty nice. Very well, that didn't last. I didn't know any better, but maybe I should have. Anyway, I lost my job at Blockbuster. Well, I think I quit. I don't remember. Um, yeah, I probably quit. I had to, but soon enough, I got a much better job. I got a job at CVS, at the 24 CVS pharmacy in Oceanside, New York. I used to take the bus to work. The bus terminal was right there, right next to the train station, which was also right by his house. Everything there was within reach. I was still trying to make it through school at the time, and taking on a new position at CVS. I really liked it there. The people were nice, and we had a really good time. Well, what was it with this guy? He showed up wherever I was. I worked afternoon and evening hours, and the next thing I know, he was working the graveyard shift at the same exact CVS. He was hired. Well, good for him, I guess. Hopefully, I'll be able to at least have a good night's sleep since he's not there. Who was I kidding? He was a terrible employee. He was just there to spy on me and just be his annoying self, and he ended up fired for it. Not surprising, because he wouldn't even work his full shift. He'd leave, or he just wouldn't even show up. Instead, he'd be waiting for me outside when I came out, and things just became unbearable. I wouldn't let my job go, though. One night he didn't show up, and I volunteered to work his shift until 7 a.m. I pulled a double, but I was up for it. I wasn't tired. I did anything to not go home. And he was heated. He came in asking me, "What are you doing?" And I responded, "I'm working. What are you doing? This is supposed to be your shift, and you didn't even show up for work. So what are you doing here?" He expected me to leave with him, but he was out of his mind. That was my time. Well, eventually he left. I met so many people there at CVS, including this one girl who is still a friend of mine today. She is. Yeah, she is. And I'm smiling because I just remembered who she is. Unfortunately for her, she happens to go through a similar story. Only a couple of years, well, I wrote this a while ago, so, because it was years ago that I went through this, as you know, 96. But I don't remember how I ran into her again, but it was funny because she only lived like one block away from mine, and that was very cool and nice back then at CVS. She used to help me out a lot, covering up for me, and just talking and listening. And it's true when they say what you do for somebody will be returned, because when she went through what she unfortunately went through, I was there for her to protect her and guide her. And she was no longer she's no longer in that relationship. And we still, well, kind of talk today. I haven't talked to her in a while, but I'm going to reach out to her. In addition to her, I met some other girls, but never got to know them as well. I just used to, I guess just use them as an opportunity to run. They were not my kind of people, but I have to tell you that I still appreciate the fact that they were there and I was able to hang out with them. One girl even let me sleep over her house, and I did that a lot. It became my way of running away. Even though I didn't know the people that well, I felt that I just grab onto an opportunity, any opportunity that I had, just to get out and just to be away without an explanation. I know I should have gone home to my family instead, but I didn't really want my family knowing exactly what I endured, so I stayed away. On one of my running nights, I had a belt stolen from me. Yeah, a belt. And I almost got raped. I fell asleep on one of the guys' beds at one of my friends' houses while watching TV. And this group of girls and guys, they lived together. They were roommates in an apartment. He was working a late shift, and when he came home, I was knocked out on his bed. I woke to find him trying to get busy with me. I told him to stop, and he wouldn't. I kept telling him he'd better, or everyone would know, including his girlfriend. Well, lucky for me, he stopped. But that was frightening in itself. I made the mistake of telling my abuser that story, and all hell broke loose. He showed up at my job and he ran into him, and in front of all the customers, all the coworkers, me and the managers, he jump kicked him at my job on his back. Now you see that's another reason why he was fired. He's a psycho, or was. I don't know where he is today. I don't keep in contact with him. Another one of my crazy experiences while running was getting together with my manager at CVS. He was very nice and he helped me a lot. And, I just took off. Took off to run, to get away. I had no reason to be nice and care for myself anymore. So I wasn't even caring for myself at this point. It was scary. Yeah, I was living la vida loca, but it was just, that's not the type of person that I was. I did things that were way out of my league. Way, way out of my league. When I say I did things that were way out of my league, I'm talking about the running, the not caring who I ran with. I didn't care whether or not I knew the people I hung with. I just didn't even care how far they'd take me. It had changed me inside. I changed. I was not the same person anymore. I had a heart of stone. I ran with my manager to his parents' house in Peekskill, New York, upstate. And I spent a night or two over there. And then he moved out here to East Meadow, I believe. And then I stayed at his cottage for a while. It wasn't long. I ran so much for about a month. I was just running, running, running. And I remember it being the whole month of November of 1996. I used to go to work with a bag all packed up, all packed up. I used to leave it in our locker room. And one of the other managers used to get all upset and tell me that I had to stop doing that. Well, my friend manager started putting my bag in his trunk. I was running. I needed to take some stuff with me. I'd go home for a night or two and then leave again. And that was also my time to shine. I had him in the palm of my hands. Yeah, I did. I dressed better. I did my hair. And I had an uncaring type of attitude for that time. He was intimidated by me. And it felt good. Yeah. I didn't know how long it would last, but I knew that I could not stop doing what I was doing or I would be in his hands all over again. There was a time when the police had to take him off of me while I was just trying to get on the bus to go to work. Right behind the bus terminal, the Long Beach Police Department was right there. I left the house one day with my bag packed as usual, and he was arguing with me the whole time as I was getting ready. And even when I left, he followed me out of the house and continued to follow me all the way down the block to the bus terminal. The whole time he walked behind me, he was crying and begging me to stay and not go. I ignored him, continuing towards the bus terminal. And when I got there, the bus wasn't there yet, and he became so embarrassing. I kept telling him that I was leaving, and there was nothing that he could do about it. And eventually the bus showed up. At that point, he became even more aggressive. Everyone was waiting on the bus. Everyone that was waiting got on the bus, and I tried to get on the bus, and he started to hold me back. He would not let go of me, and he even became frightening. And I pleaded with the bus driver, please don't go. Please don't leave me here. Don't go. The bus driver did not, and he would not leave, but he didn't say a word either. this guy, abuser, grabbed my bag and kept on pulling on me. And I was so scared. I was in tears, not knowing what to do. Apparently, someone on the bus must have called the police because a car drove up from behind the bus terminal and out came a police officer. He grabbed onto him and pulled him, telling him to leave me alone and let me leave. And even though he was pulling me back, he acted pretty calm and nice. And so he began crying hysterically, telling the officer, "You don't understand, officer. I love this girl. I don't want her to leave. Officer, please understand me." And the officer said, "Yes, I know. I do understand. But she wants to go. Just let her leave." He pleaded with the officer continuously, even when the officer picked him up and took him off of me and told me to go and get on the bus. So I finally got on the bus, and the bus was completely silent. Everyone on the bus. I sat down and broke into tears. That was over, but eventually I did get tired of running and thought everything would finally get better. So soon enough, I just went back home. I was better again for a little while, but again, that didn't last long. I went to work and back, and everything was okay. School was still a challenge, but in no time, oh, I'm sorry, I was reading a comment. Okay. In no time, I apologize. So in no time, where was I? It was better again for a little while, but again, that didn't last long. I went to work and back and everything was okay. School was still a challenge, but in no time, I was kicked out. I was kicked out of the school, and that was it. I was extremely upset. I knew that I should have dropped out when I had the chance to, but I thought that I could fight all this and finish off the semester at least. In addition, I had all the help from the government that I could have gotten and never had to pay a dime. And that was great. But in the end, the consequence I paid was losing that opportunity again forever. Supposedly, I had to wait a whole year in order to get that kind of help again. Try never. I could still get financial aid, of course, but that help, the help that I had then would never again be given to me. Well, anyway, I want to stop there because we're running short in time, and I didn't think it was going to take me this long. Honestly, it didn't take me this long previously. In all honesty, it's I don't know if you guys noticed, it was a little bit traumatic for me reading my own story. There's a whole lot left, and we're probably going to have a part 2 of my story, and push off, maybe have another, add another week to the series or so, because it does get better or worse, a lot worse and better. But I'm going to stop there for today. And I just want to appreciate you all for listening. I told you it wasn't going to be easy. Definitely isn't easy at all. There is definitely a lot more to that story, and I'm gonna share more next week. I'll share more next week. I want to thank you guys once again for your patience. I don't know honestly how else to say it. I am almost out of words. It's gonna take me a minute. I don't know if you guys want me to go on longer, but I'm okay. Like I we can end now and then just move forward into next week, and I'll continue next week. I would like that's exactly what I was going to do. I was going to ask my panel members if there's anything that they would like to say before we close out for the night.
I'll I'll share something here. One, I want to thank all the viewers for listening in and tuning in. I know that Antoine, we want to shout him out. He did say that his mom did go through something like that and she was able to be delivered, and through therapy they got through it. So I want to encourage you, Liz, because it takes a lot of courage to relive a traumatic story, whether you say it, whether you read it, whether you're answering questions because someone's asking. It takes courage to speak. And yes, I agree that I could hear it as you shared, that it's almost like you were reliving it.
Hmm.
And so I don't know what it's like to be in a domestic violent situation, but in hearing you share the story, I can only imagine all of the fearful nights, all of the times you felt, am I gonna make it? Is this the last time? I can't even fathom. And I just, kisses to you. My heart is filled, and empowered because you were strong in sharing. Um, I would have been okay with you sharing the full story. I mean, I can't make that decision on my own. And of course, you have to be okay with that. And to doing it next week is perfectly fine as well. Uh, but know that we're here. We're your sisters. We love you. And of course, Christina's going to speak for herself and Melanie's going to speak for herself. But I'm proud of you. And I'm glad that you're here, that you're on the other side of that story, of that experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. I will not lie. I am a little shaken up. I really am. I am shaken up, and woo, there's still a whole lot more to share. I'm not lying. Yeah, my book is about 30 pages, and I didn't share that many. But ladies, I thank you so much. I am shaken up. Yeah, it was reliving it. And I know that it's not easy, and I'm going to relive it again next week. I would definitely stay on another hour, but again, I think for now we're okay. And I'm going to let ahead Melanie or Christina, whichever one of you want to share.
Hey, good evening. So I just wanted to thank everyone that I've been like dialoguing with on the Facebook chats, and I graciously was able to share with my lovely Sophie Velasquez, who's actually joining and watching right now, and she holds a support group on Facebook for domestic violence overcomers and people that are still facing it right now. So, Sophie, I hope you do tune in and encourage other sisters to come in as well, because we all have a story to share. We're all overcoming. And the blessing is that anyone who's out there watching right now, we are women in the faith who has dealt with that in the past. And through these circumstances, we were still tuning in and seeking God, through these trials and struggles. And we want to also show others that they can come out of it. They can come out of it. You don't have to be stuck. So I hope that these stories that we share will be an encouragement to, if it's not many, but just that one who could tune in and watch. We want to reach that one. So I thank you, and I hope you all can just tune in as the next couple of weeks we share our stories.
Thank you, Jasenia. Jasenia. Thank you, Melanie. I'm sorry. I'm shaking up. Can you tell? Thank you, Melanie, for sharing. Yeah, that's awesome, Sophie. I too have a support group on Facebook, Domestic Violence Awareness Support Group. Um, yeah, I didn't even share in there that I was going to be sharing my story, because I think it's just, reliving it, and there are people still going through it. I guess I didn't really want to shake them up, but it's, yeah, oh, Lord. I'm going to move on to Christina. Thank you, Mel.
Oh, girl, my heart. You about got me in tears, Mama. So I, of course, want to share, with us ladies, we don't know every single thing about one another at all. We're going to actually be learning things on this show about one another that we had no clue about. We know Liz had been through some stuff, but I had no clue. And I just feel like crying. I wish I could come and hold you and give you the biggest hug right now. But just know I'm there. You know, I'm doing it, girl. But I think more than ever, my heart goes out to you and so many other women, you know, that have gone through this. That, like you said, they're quiet, they're scared. They think some of them think there's something wrong with them. It's their fault, you know. Some of them live in fear because of their kids, because they may be threatened with their life. And there's help out there. The biggest help is God. I myself will share my story down the road, but I didn't have support groups. I didn't have family. I had to climb that mountain of faith and or go over the mountain of fear, and go into faith and step into it. And that's if it wasn't for the good Lord, I probably wouldn't be here today. And same with you, Mama. He had his hands all over you, even through the midst of it. And that's something I'm going to be sharing when I, talk. But a lot of folks will be like, well, God, all this just happened to her. Who is God? God isn't real. Okay, I see that point to an extreme with people. But what I had to learn is in life is God is very real. And the enemy don't like us, and he don't like you. And see, God kept you and God protected you so that you would one day share your story. You would one day be strong for other women. You would one day have a voice. And he's going to build you, and he's going to mend you, and he's going to grow you just like he's going to do millions of women. So I wanted to share that with you. And can I pray before we leave real quick?
I would love that. I would love to do that.
Definitely. We could do that just before we leave. I know that you have to hop off real quick. Just to end, for ending the show, I want to thank you, Christina, for sharing that. At the time, I wasn't even a Christian. I was a backslidden Christian, and made my life even more difficult. But I know that there was a purpose in everything that I was going through, and God was with me regardless of my sins. As I share more about my story, you guys will see how God had really been there and saved my life from death. And so we'll get to that. But we're going to end for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching with us. Please tune in next week. We're live every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I really look forward to sharing the rest of my story with you. And I will do part 2 of my story next week. And hopefully that'll be it. I mean, it should be it. I'll try to be a little faster. But thank you so much for your patience and for listening. We love you all so much. And we will see you next Saturday. We love you. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
We love you all.